What is good, NIO family? It's Rey-Jay back with another video, and in this I'm going to be talking about the one and only NIO stock and what you should be looking out for the future. I'm also going to break down what's going on with the overall market, how this may affect NIO, why NIO may get a balance for the short term before more potential downside for the more medium term, and what on earth I'm seeing with the news that's coming out and the things affecting NIO. Before I break anything down about this video, before I talk about NIO stock and what you should be watching for, let me just mention a couple of things real quick. Firstly, I'm not a financial planner. Make sure you take none of this as financial advice whatsoever. And also, if you guys can, please smash the like button if you want to see more videos like this. It not only benefits me, it benefits the entire NIO community as a whole. And the last thing is, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link down below and in the description. If you sign up for Moomoo, the link down below, and deposit $100 into the account, you're guaranteed up to 10 free stocks, each worth up to $2,000. And the best part is any can be a free NIO share, a free Tesla share, or a mix of all of them. It's a limited time offer. The offer ends very, very soon in just a couple of weeks. And today is going to be the last day I actually promote this offer on my channel before I switch to something else. So check it out before they run out. The offer is almost over. Anyways, let's talk about NIO now. And by the way, guys, have a very happy Mother's Day for all the mothers out there. Many people out there could become moms. They could have children, but only few could be true mothers and great mothers compared to others. So I just want to say I appreciate all the mothers out there. You're appreciated, you're loved, and I hope you guys have an absolutely fantastic day. But anyways, let's talk about the market now. NIO is down almost 6% for the day, at least as of Friday. And what do I see from right here? I am anticipating a bounce on the markets and also for NIO, just a very minor bounce. I think the market is going to continue to chop just a bit before we start to see more downside as we approach the month of June. As soon as this week, there could be even more downside depending on the announcements by the Fed speakers. But like I said before, I'm still holding my same stance as before, and that is becoming more inclined to be a bear, I would say, for the next couple of weeks. I would say approaching June, I'm once again anticipating more downside. Before that, I think the market might bounce a bit. Before I break down exactly why, let me just talk about a couple of things. One thing that could lead to more downside in the markets would be the whole debt ceiling fiasco. There's a default deadline that's coming up on June 1st, right? And what tends to happen during situations like this is politics gets in the way, and the events or the debt ceiling just tends to get delayed until the last minute typically. It could even be delayed until like after, leading to a potential default. If that happens, once again, that could lead to more fears for the markets, even some downside. That's why I'm warning everyone to be very careful, right? Part of this is because it's not just the events, it's themselves, right? It's the news, the media, and the sentiments that are shifted because of events like this. If you look at the latest data that came out on Friday, consumer sentiment is dropping. It's dropping because of the debt ceiling. People are becoming more fearful, and Wall Street will take advantage of this by shorting the market during another opportunity. And this could be part of their plan. I think it's very likely that this could lead to more volatility in the markets, and you have to be careful. Now, on top of that, we have earnings coming out, just like a couple of them, which aren't really that huge. I mean, it's not really a big earnings week this week. We just have like the Home Depot, PaySafe, there's Target, Walmart, Ross, Jack in the Box. Nothing too major for the week. The only big days are going to be like Wednesday and Thursday since we have a lot of retail. But other than that, there's not too much going on for the week. As far as the Fed speakers go, as I mentioned before, in the very beginning, I would say about 45 minutes before the market opens in the pre-market, we have Bostic speaking. The market tends to sell off when they speak. So be careful. Bostic tends to drop the markets. But then 15 minutes before the market opens, we have Kashkari. Kashkari tends to be more of a dove, and the market tends to pump when he speaks typically, right? I'm not guaranteeing this. I mean, it's hard to predict what they'll say, but this is typically what happens. So Kashkari might help the market pump a bit into open. We might see the market just continue to push up a little bit, but that can make up the balance I'm talking about. But Barkin speaks at 9:30. Barkin could lead to more downside. Barkin tends to be a bigger hawk, and this can incite some fear for the markets. Maybe the markets sell off a little bit because of Barkin, slow down a bit. So we may have quite a volatile day tomorrow, and we could start off pushing up quite nicely, then slow down as the day goes on. That's what I'm seeing for tomorrow. But once again, I think that the bears will have a bigger edge over the next few weeks, over the next month, because of the whole situation with the news and the fears involving inflation. Now, on top of all of this, we do have a 1.68 put to call ratio with max pain at 411 for SPY. Maybe we pump up a little bit and then we start to come right back down. That's also very possible. But I believe there is still likely going to be a big move to the downside soon. Most of the Fed speakers tend to be like in the middle or even a little bit more on the hawkish side. So I'd be careful later on during the week. Anyways, now let's break down NIO stock. I mean, NIO did drop and the volume was just average, so that tends to not be the best of signs. 42 million in volume versus the 44.6 million average is very interesting to mention. And then NIO also has right here a very flat price pairs ratio, which means that NIO is performing very similar to the market. It did sell off quite a bit on Friday, but besides that, it's continuing to look relatively in the middle or a little bit more on the weaker side. And then on the daily basis, NIO tends to be green only about 49% of the time on Mondays, and we tend to be green about 55% of the time on Tuesdays. I think NIO is going to be more dictated by the markets than before. Looking at the short interest, NIO did see over 6 million shares shorted just a few days ago, and as of Friday, we saw about 4.6 million. The news came out about NIO offering solid state batteries for this year, which have longer ranges. Very awesome stuff. But besides that, I didn't really see too much else. I did talk about this previously anyways. Now let me just break down a couple of charts before ending this video. Looking closely, the MACD is about to turn on the 1 hour time frame, and NIO looks like it's trying to hold above 7.9. It's going to make an attempt to bounce. I would say that it might push up, then cool off a bit. Thanks to Bostic, get a bounce again. Excuse me, sorry guys. Get a bounce one more time thanks to Kashkari. Push up a little bit as the day goes on and then just continue to sell off. So very, very sideways day tomorrow, maybe a push up, then a sell off afterwards. I'm anticipating NIO to close very flat. However, going forward into the next few weeks, I'm anticipating more downside anyways. For Tesla, I'm seeing something very similar. There's a bullish divergence developing, and I think Tesla's going to make an attempt to push up again. So right here, you can see there's a bullish divergence on the MACD. It's either going to sell off a little bit more than try to get that really nice bounce or just try to bounce from here, depending on the Fed speakers. It's a little bit hard to predict, but it is due for a small bounce. It's kind of oversold or very close to oversold territory. So it either pushes down a little bit, then tries to get a bounce. And then after that, it's just going to be establishing a top. If it fails to break this 177 high, it could be forming, right, a head and shoulders formation, right? This could be a giant left shoulder. This could be the head. Then the right shoulder could be forming before we start to see more and more downside. And eventually it's going to bring Tesla down into the 160 flat zone, if not the 150s. When, by the time we get to June, I believe that's going to happen. I think the debt ceiling is going to lead to lots of fears. Okay, so that's what I'm seeing for the markets, for Tesla and NIO. For SPY, it's basically the same thing. I'm anticipating a bounce on SPY. It has a potential bullish divergence that's formed on the 1 hour time frame. It's going to try to make its way up to attempts to fill the gap. No guarantee it goes up to 415. It's going to try to push up first before we start to see more downside. And that's basically what I'm seeing. Either the downside comes as soon as Monday, if not by like Tuesday and beyond. And then by the time we get to June, same thing, more downside is going to be the bigger move. Why am I not too inclined into buying in this market? Well, I'm getting lots of sell signals suggesting that the market has downside. What I mean by that is I don't think the upside is going to be the bigger move. Maybe we pump a couple of dollars. Maybe they try to pump us a little bit more. But there's a lot more of a bigger move that's going to be made on the downside over the next couple of weeks going into June, in my honest opinion. For the QQQ, it's the same thing. It could pump a little bit more, but there is a bigger bearish divergence that has developed. Might try to push up off this move right here, right? It could try to get back up to about 326 or so, but as long as it breaks below this 325 area, it could be starting to break to the downside after this rising wedge has been forming. If you look at the daily and the 1 hour time frames, there's a rising wedge, which ultimately leads to a bearish conclusion. So what does this mean? It could pump a little bit more. It could try to hold up just temporarily, depending on the Fed speakers. But then I'm anticipating the rug pull that's most likely going to come. Now, Jerome Powell speaks on Friday. I mean, could he try to pump the market unexpectedly? It's a possibility, but I don't even think Jerome Powell is going to be enough because of the debt ceiling. Now, he'd have to announce something massive to get me to change my opinion. But for now, as long as Powell does not announce something absolutely huge for the markets, the odds are still favoring heavily that the market may hold up temporarily for the very short term, next couple of days, before we start to see more downside as we approach the debt ceiling deadline. going into it, going into June. I think the odds are favoring downside very soon. QQQ is holding up for now, just a bit, but there is a bearish divergence that's still existent. And that's telling me we have to be patient. Downside is still imminent. So be very careful. Anyways, guys, all of this will affect NIO. If you're looking at the QQQ or Tesla, consumer discretionaries or SPY, it will all affect NIO. And that's why I think NIO is going to make its way back up to about at least 8.3 to 8.5 first. It could make an attempt to try to bounce first before we start to see more downside. But if it breaks below 7.9, fails to hold it, then there is that gap at 7.6 to watch for. Ultimately, I mean, there's just a tiny bit of upside. Could come up just a little bit to try to get back to 8.5 or a little bit lower. But the bigger move is going to be the move to the downside back into the sevens, 7.5, 7.3, which is where I see NIO going. That's going to be the bigger move. So a bounce first and more downside. And that's what I see for NIO. All right, guys, so please enjoy your Mother's Day. I thank you all so much for listening. I have some merch for you guys if you're interested in buying anything like a tank top or a shirt that says "To the Moon" or "Eat, Sleep, Trade, Repeat." And finally, don't forget about the Moon link. The offer ends very, very soon. Thank you all for listening. Have a great day. NIO to the moon alongside the overall market as the long term is very bright. And peace out.